Hello! In this video I want to take a little break from the CT90 and try to get the electric start working on the CL450. I'm going to start by rebuilding the starter clutch and then repairing the starter button, and then I think I'm going to have to replace the solenoid. Should be a fun video, so thanks for watching and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so that didn't take long at all. I got everything apart here. My rotor was a little stubborn, but that's actually because I took this all apart and rebuilt the starter clutch maybe 6 months ago. And I think I just put a little too much torque on this bolt, so it was all kind of tightened down too hard. But that's fine. I won't do that again this time. So you're probably wondering, if I took the starter clutch apart and rebuilt it a couple months ago, what am I doing here again? Well, I read this kind of frightening article about these 450 clutches, and I'll link it down below. Basically, the guy was saying that they're very prone to breaking. They're very fragile, just based on how they're engineered. Now, this guy, his solution was to drill out and sort of lengthen the dowel pin in here that holds this all together. There's kind of like a knock pin. Now, I considered doing that, and I talked to a local guy about it, and he said, and I quote, "Well, lots of people do a lot of dumb stuff with their bikes." So I guess his idea was that that wasn't all that necessary. And I talked to some other guys, and the sense seemed to be that those parts that always break aren't always parts that necessarily have to always break. Sometimes, I don't know, there's a little bit more fear about these things than there should be. So you're still rightfully wondering, then why am I taking the starter clutch apart? Well, this is the reason. I got this thread locker orange, which is removable but stronger than the blue stuff, and you saw how easy these 3 screws just came out. These are kind of the weak points of the starter clutch, those and this knock pin, like I said. So I'm going to be throwing some of this thread locker on those bolts and reassembling this whole thing, and hopefully that should give it a little bit more strength, and it'll certainly give me a little more confidence when I'm using it. So there are a million videos online if you don't know how to put one of these together, but they're real simple. It's just 3 parts 3 times. The spring, this little spring cap, and a little roller. Now, the risk in this coming apart is that you'd have a loose screw or fragments of this knock pin floating around in your engine while it's running. Basically, in the article I found, they drilled out this hole and they milled a larger knock pin out of hardened steel, and it just kind of gave it a little more shear strength. I don't really have the tools for that, nor do I really want to go through all that, so instead, like I said, I'm just going to use this orange thread locker on there. So it only goes on there one way, and once it's on there, this gear should only spin in one direction. See, it spins this way, but not that. It catches that way. So that's how you can test if it works. Alright, so I've given this a good shake, clean these threads up a little bit with some brake clean to make sure there's no oil on them. I already cleaned up the internal threads the same way with some brake clean. And these are actually new screws as well. I think they're Phillips, not JS, because I got them at the local hardware store. Alright, and I'll just tighten these down. I think they just bottom out here. Yeah, they just bottom out. No torque or anything. Alright, so this is set in 20 minutes, cured in 24 hours, so I'll give it a day before I run the bike and get it covered in oil, but I am going to go ahead and reassemble everything now. So while I was cleaning this up, I just noticed there's this little ding here in the side of the starter clutch, you can see, and there's even another one around here. You can see it's a little smaller. I'm interested if anyone knows what those are from. They are at like roughly the base of the springs, but not exactly. But yeah, maybe it's the spring. maybe when the starter engages, it punches the springs back. I don't know, but if anyone knows what that is, I'd be very curious about what those two dings are from. Anyway, let's go bring all this stuff up and put it back on the bike. I thought I was forgetting something. Yeah, I just found the chain retainer down in the bottom of the crankcase cover. I actually think it fell out earlier, but that doesn't mean it was loose. So, I don't know, I'll either torque that down more or maybe I'll put a little blue Loctite on that as well, just to be safe, so that doesn't come out and start bouncing around the engine, because, yeah, it was definitely loose. Alright, so I got the starter solenoid hooked up, so now if I turn on the key, hit the button, you can still hear the clicking, but the starter is not turning over. So I think it's a bad solenoid, or maybe a bad connection somewhere. I'll look around. Alright, so I still have to figure out a way to mount the solenoid, but I got everything hooked up. I got the battery in. I can turn the bike on. There you go. Alright, that's the starter fixed. We just have to now mount up the solenoid somehow. So you can see on the original solenoid that it's got this bracket welded on, and this actually fastens right to the battery box. And this sort of universal, I got this off 4-into-1, this universal solenoid does not have any bracket, but it has this rubber piece which has little slots in it, and plumber's tape fits right in those slots. So I'm just gonna cut a little piece of this plumber's tape and we'll bolt it on like that. And then it came with a second piece of rubber that comes over the top here and covers up the leads. Alright, so I got everything bolted together and all the wiring buttoned up. You can see, turned out pretty well. Got the battery back in there, so now just one more test. Great. So now I'm gonna get the rest of the bike together And we can see if the starter motor actually starts the motor. Alright, so I won't lie and say that it's not warm, but let's see now if we turn the bike on. There you go. Running a little weird, it's not fully warm yet, and the petcock's off, but pretty good. Let's hear that again. One more time.